Welcome to Elementary STEM with Miss Crosman. I just finished filming a video about the top 20 things you need to have in your classroom, and I thought it would be a good time to do a little bit of humor and talk to you about the 5 things you should not have in your STEM classroom. Number 1 on my list, although I've heard other people love them, are Code and Go mice kits. I got these, thank goodness, for 70% off at Target because I feel cheated. Because our kids took them out, we played with them for a couple weeks, they absolutely loved them, but my students, instead of always using it like a robot, because they are mostly kindergarten through 2nd graders, would rev it back and forth. And if you know anything about the internal workings of the Code and Go mouse, you know that there are gears in there that become stripped if the mouse is pushed or pulled backward. So in the course of 2 weeks, we went from 6 kits of Code and Go mouse kits to I think 1 might have been working, and then that one died very shortly thereafter. So it did not stand up to 250 kids using it for the course of 2 weeks. So that was my number 1. Number 2 are clothespins from the Dollar Tree. Now, I don't know if you follow Frugal Fun for Boys, that blog. It is fantastic. It has lots of different STEM building challenges. And they almost all involve really inexpensive materials, and one of them is clothespins. So being on a budget with my school, trying to be fiscally responsible, I went to the dollar store, Dollar Tree up here, and I purchased hundreds of these. And then when we opened them and started using them, we realized that they are kind of cheaply made and they're not level. So when the kids try and balance them on the ends, they weren't balancing. So we ended up having to just use them for other projects. I really couldn't use them for the projects that I wanted to. So if you're going to invest in a whole lot of clothespins to do some of those Frugal Fun for Boys activities, make sure you're paying a little bit extra and get a nice brand and a nice quality that are level and can actually be used for a building. Now, along that same line, there were a lot of activities on the Frugal Fun for Boys site that used paper binders. So I bought a ton of paper binders my very first year teaching STEM, and then realized that my students are too young to manipulate them. They do not have the strength in their fingers to be able to work them. So they've sat in a basket pretty much unused for 3 years now. So I would not recommend those either. Now, 2 funny ones. Styrofoam. I would not recommend using Styrofoam because I was not aware of this. It's been a long time since I've used Styrofoam. And Styrofoam is now made from a starch material. So I pulled it out as a potential building material when we were doing boats one day, and we were trying to build boats that floated. I think it was like a 1st grade, 2nd grade activity. And as the kids are putting them in the water, as we're timing them, the boats are starting to sink. And I said, that doesn't make any sense because Styrofoam should float. No, Styrofoam made with starch dissolves when it touches water. And it doesn't just dissolve cleanly. You wind up with this kind of weird, slimy, gooey stuff in your water, so then nobody else wants to use the water. So I would not use Styrofoam and purchase it for your classroom unless you can get the real deal Styrofoam. And number 5 is restaurant quality tinfoil sheets. This was a funny project too. So I had the kids build tinfoil boats in kindergarten class one day. And at one of my schools, it worked great and the activity went fine and the boats worked and they could hold, 20 small glass cubes. Everything was perfect. So I take that same activity to my other school where I had bought a different type of tinfoil because I had to hand out so many sheets. I said, I'm going to get the pre-cut sheets at Sam's Club in the restaurant section. So I hand them all out to kids. They're building their boats. They're putting them in water and they're taking on water. And I said, I don't understand this. Well, come to find out, the restaurant quality tinfoil sheets are perforated so that you can wrap like cheeseburgers and hot dogs in them and it won't make the bun soggy because the steam is allowed to escape. Unfortunately, that perforation also allows the water to come through and all of our boats sank. So that was just a lesson learned. We ended up using the tinfoil in other ways, but if you're doing paper boats, you really can't buy restaurant quality tinfoil that is perforated. I would not recommend it, but it was funny. I'm still remembering it and laughing over it a couple years later. Hope this list helps you.